When I was in Moscow, I heard about a program. Young officers trained to seduce and manipulate. To use their bodies. To use everything. Call them sparrows.
In the mystery thriller Red Sparrow, we follow Jennifer Lawrence as a Russian ballerina who gets recruited into Sparrow School. This isn't your typical nose-in-the-books education, though. Instead, the girls learn to use their bodies as weapons for the government. In other words, how to become a spy.
Well, I thought the entire idea was fascinating. When I first heard about the movie, I knew that the book was written by an ex-CIA officer who had spent 30 years working predominantly with U.S.-Russian relations. So I knew already we were going to have a very unique look at espionage. But then when I read it, it's so much deeper. It's really about the human side that goes into deceit, corruption, and also leading a double life.
I think that I was struck by the story of Dominique Igorova, the heroine of the movie. You know, she gets sucked into the world against her will. She's a very, very reluctant hero, and she has to survive that what's been painted as quite a brutal version of the world of espionage. And that really intrigued me because I think for something that's very specific in terms of genre, I found it to be a really unique way in. Often the spy movies sort of glamorize the life with like Bond and Mission Impossible, or they're very political, and I found this to be a very human story that kind of upended the genre a bit.
As we already mentioned, to become a sparrow, Jennifer had to learn how to use her body as a weapon. This meant taking her clothes off in front of the camera, something she hasn't done so far in her acting career.
You must learn to push yourself beyond all limitation. Take off your clothes. When we are finished with you, the person you were will no longer exist.
I think it was harder mentally, you know, when I was like really, you know, there was a part of me that was really scared to do this movie just because I've always been kind of, you know, it's very scary. The idea of that actual nightmare coming true of standing in front of a classroom naked. But on the day when I finally did it, everybody was so professional and so nice, and everybody worked so hard to make me feel comfortable. So I think the hardest part was probably just the night before.
One thing we're probably all wondering is whether these spy schools exist for real. Well, we're as clueless as the cast themselves.
No idea. No idea, because my research doesn't take me that far. I don't want to end up, I'm in the gulags. What are you doing in the gulags? Joel's like, oh, I was researching this movie. And I asked some pretty heavy questions to the wrong people. Look, I have no doubt that there is levels of stuff that neither you nor me, thankfully, will ever know about. Exactly. That is going on that presumes to make the world a safer and a better place, but perhaps does the opposite. And everything in between. And I'm sure there's some dark stuff that's going on there, and I'm glad I'm an actor.
Well, I do know that there were schools like Sparrow Schools. It was called something slightly different, but there was schools like this in the 60s and the 70s where they trained people to manipulate. Typically what they were trained to do is to seduce and then blackmail. So you might find a target who might be a guard at an embassy or a clerk or something in an embassy, and they suck you in, and then they basically threaten to show your family back home pictures and video unless you get them information and files and things like that. But it was a real thing.
We'll never know how close this film gets to reality, but one thing's for sure, Red Sparrow is a story you do not want to miss.
You belong to them. They'll never let you go.
I'll find a way.
Like what you see? Subscribe to our channel for more exclusive clips.